Hey guys, so let's talk a little bit more about Aerodrome, shall we? If you're in it, have you noticed it has been essentially outperforming the vast majority of the market recently? I mean, due to, we'll just call it conflicts of international turmoil, everyone trying to figure out their own stuff. Most crypto has gone down notably. There's been a few, and I mean, I've noticed a few, so I know there's been a couple others that are scattered throughout. But as a generality, everything kind of went down. They look like they're coming back up, but there's been a small handful that have gone up when everything else has gone down. And that doesn't necessarily show or mean that those crypto are better than the other ones, but it does let you know that typically there's something else exciting that's going on, at least in terms of Aerodrome, right? I can, and I will in the next couple of minutes talk about some of the things that's been happening to Aerodrome that if you weren't aware of, or if you need to know a little bit more detail of, which has kept the prices going up and even stabilized a little bit more when everything else has kind of been crashing. So let's talk a little bit about Aerodrome updates and get into it, shall we? So if you're watching this, you're probably somewhat familiar with Aerodrome, right? It's the main governance token for the base ecosystem, which is Coinbase. Okay, the Coinbase based ecosystem. And Aerodrome Finance, the company behind the Aero token, is the main DEX on Base. Awesome. Instantly, this means that it has a utility, which is great, right? The more people buy, sell, trade, added liquidity pools, any of that kind of stuff on the base ecosystem, Aerodrome gets a little bit more use, a little bit more action. We like that stuff, right? And there's been a couple of big things that were both hype and awesome utility coming in, which almost guarantees, because we can't guarantee anything, I guess, in crypto, but essentially guarantees more money and use is going to be coming in. One of those things was how it's like 2 weeks ago, almost essentially to the day of recording. Right now it's the 24th. Coinbase announced that users will be able to trade directly on chain through the Base app, specifically for base based assets. What this does is that realize Aerodrome's a base-based asset, correct? Any of their memes like Toshi is there, Moonwell, their main lending protocol. These are going to be highlighted. So one, this was good news because people realized, oh crap, this is a new Coinbase feature. And for the most part, anything that's good for Coinbase is going to be good for Aerodrome. They're not one and the same, but they also kind of are. It's a similar but tighter connection than what Render has with NVIDIA, right? Like if NVIDIA's got some big news, does well, Render kind of suckles that and piggybacks a little bit. Well, Aero is going to be far tighter to Coinbase than that. So if you want a quick little hint of information to keep a hold of for Aerodrome is keep an eye on what Coinbase does. But so now there's going to be open trading on the app. Okay, what does that matter? What if there was trading on the desktop and on Coinbase Wallet? There was. But there's already more users and people getting into it on the app simply because it's easier, right? Humans, we are lazy by nature. We love convenience. And if people are like, oh, I already have Coinbase, I can trade more. It just takes a whole middleman out. This is going to increase the amount of people buying, selling, trading on Coinbase, which means Aerodrome's use can go up. Within just a couple of hours of this announcement, the Aerodrome price actually went up just over 20%. So, I mean, if you really want to call that very odd and placed and specialized coincidence, I'm willing to ignore you all that one. But this was just kind of cool. It's good to see that even when there's a general bearish sentiment in the market, great news can still push crypto up. And one of the biggest things that this new announcement does for Aerodrome is it kind of sets it apart from most other dexes because this now just makes it much more mainstream, right? Because we can talk about other dexes, Radium for Solana, Trader Joe for Avalanche. Most people are more familiar with Coinbase, specifically, the normies, the retail that's not in yet, people who are into investing in stocks. They might have heard of Solana, but I guarantee they've heard of Coinbase when it comes to something that they're used to. People are going to go to what is easier and simpler for them, where they don't have to create new of these wallets or digitize all this stuff. Need to use a VPN. Those of us who are in the space, this might not seem like a big deal, but it brings a lot of people in who this is a big deal to them. which is phenomenal. The other big thing, I guess I got two more. So one of the other big things that happened was JP Morgan. Have you heard of this? Kind of a big fucking bank is now getting involved with Coinbase. Specifically, they're making a stable coin or their version of a USD deposit token that they're calling the JPMD. And this is going directly on the Base ecosystem. So technically, this is a deposit token, not a stable coin. It's one of those small little details that's probably not going to matter the vast majority of the time, but just to be technical, what the difference is that it's directly represents a bank deposit, and it's not just a basket of assets like some other stable coins. So it's not going to make a huge difference. It'll be a little different when it comes to inflationary models and more so just how the money ends up on chain. But JP Morgan is putting a crap ton of money on the Base ecosystem. This news followed up I don't think it was even a week after the Coinbase announcement. Which again, good news on top of good news. And this is why we ended up seeing, I think it was it 60% increase? I think it was about a 60% increase. Things that hit 61% in just about a week and a half, 2 weeks. So what does it matter, right? So to keep things simple, let's call it a stable coin, right? Who cares, right? If it's just a stable coin, what good does that do? Is people going to use it? Yeah. So JP Morgan is putting this on Base specifically for large company and corporate based institutions for investment purposes. So it's not going to be necessary for retail. Like you're not going to see people like me or you likely that's going to go in and use this JP Morgan token, JPMD. Instead, it's big companies that are like Fortune 500, Fortune 200 companies that are coming in to buy, sell, and trade digital assets for the company investments. This means big money is coming in, right? And we're going to see this make a huge impact, I think, over time. Well, if you end up having so much more of these banks putting on their version or variants of stable coins, and they're bringing in large investors to use these coins on this ecosystem, I don't really care so much about it being a little inflation, right? I mean, it's going to greatly help offset it and also helps keeps cost more cost effective, I guess to say a little bit more aligned with the real world. And more of the price action isn't going to come necessarily from people buying these coins, but the usage on the ecosystem. And that is a lot better long term. It's great short term. Moderate term, we'll probably see it dip down a little bit and need more hype and exciting news for it to come back up. This is one of those higher highs, higher low situations, most likely. But utility in this crypto actually increases the price over time. And this all but guarantees when you have someone like JP Morgan coming in to move funds around, that there's going to be more money moving in for a longer term utility. Awesome freaking news. And add to it that Coinbase has now filed with the SEC to be able to get blockchain based stocks on Coinbase. That seems like a very obvious avenue for JP Morgan to push people into the investment side of it. Think about it, because then if they can get most of their coins into kind of a new asset class on Base ecosystem, that's only good for them too. So when you want to know how to make money, follow the people that all it is their job to make money. Banks is a pretty good example of that. Now, there's a couple other things, at least one in particular, I'm keeping an eye on for future price action, and I mean relatively soon future price action, like the end of July to August. I think it's the last week of July, going into the first week of August, obviously, of where this was per Yahoo Finance. So they're kind of in the know, right? They're expecting Coinbase to announce an earnings report. So earnings reports, at least in stocks, tend to be price action movers, one way or the other, kind of depending. I still remember hearing a lot of times of Nvidia specifically, because I watch it for render, saying that the earnings were a lot higher, and a lot can only mean like 5-6% higher than expected, and boom, people start buying it because it was better than they expected. And with everything that's coming out, there's a decent chance when some good news about Coinbase's earning report. I'm kind of expecting it. to the point of where I might keep an eye on it at mid-July and put a long position open for it. I'll see how the market is. I'm not going to jump the gun yet. A lot can happen in a month, specifically black swan events. But that's going to be could be a big deal. I'm keeping an eye on it for that reason specifically. Not to mention, they also have in the SEC and pushing bigger and more frequent uses of stable coins to come into base ecosystem. And again, the reason why stable coins matter is that you only put stable coins on an ecosystem to spend, right? You sit there to collect the APY or APR and then to spend it. And when you have something like a DEX, a governance utility fee token, it's going to go up with use. This is one of the few times like I actually care about stable coins. I'm not going to invest into them, but I'll invest in the things that they're going to be using. So there it is, guys. Quick little update on Aero, explaining, at least from what I saw, why things have been moving up so well and now stabilizing. I'm expecting more good news. Base has grown exponentially this year, and I like the base ecosystem. If not financial advice, also not what I'm doing. So this is a small rhetorical hypothetical if. But if I was going to go full in on one ecosystem, like full in only on Solana and all of its memes and coins, including Render in that case, or only go into Avalanche and its stuff, I would go into base fully. Again, I fully think that you should diversify and keep things spread out. But I've been really happy with what they're doing. I'm definitely going to keep an eye on the other tokens on base for later in this cycle to see it as a good place to move more profits into. Because again, Coinbase, they're going to promote and shield their own tokens, right? So expect more and more on Coinbase and little app talking about tokens that run on the base ecosystem. It just makes sense, and I'm over much more than expecting. So there it is, guys. Let me know what you think. Have I missed any big news or anything that's coming out of Aerodrome or Coinbase recently? Let me know. And I think I owe you guys an update on a price prediction video coming up. Yeah, I think I do. I'll talk to you guys soon. Peace.